Welcome to Week in One. I'm Shurdika Pillay. It's been a busy news week in the country with so many burning issues. Chances are you have missed some of it. So let us bring you up to speed with a quick wrap of the top stories and interviews on eNCA that have South Africans talking and glued to their screens. This week's top stories. President Cyril Ramaphosa in the hot seat in a parliamentary session. A multi-million rand Transnet corruption and fraud case returns to court. And fists fly at a COPE conference. Chaos broke out in Parliament during President Cyril Ramaphosa's Q&A session on Tuesday. He faced a barrage of questions about a range of issues, including the robbery at his game farm, rolling power cuts, and illegal migration. eNCA's Mangoba Mqunu compiled this report.
Speaker,
take your seat.
No, it's a point of exigence.
Take your seat. There is no exigence. Take your seat. Take your seat, Tambo.
President Cyril Ramaphosa's virtual appearance sparked an uproar from EFF members. They raised concerns around his conspicuous absence from the National Assembly.
The way we are constituted, it is extremely wrong. There are no longer COVID restrictions. Postpone the sitting, arrange a proper venue, and allow all of us to come under one roof. Because the way you are doing is tantamount to protecting the president of the ANC and the executive from being held properly accountable to Parliament.
By far, the biggest hot button item was the 2020 theft at Ramaphosa's Palapala farm in Limpopo.
We want an explanation of the man in the mattress and pillows of Cyril Ramaphosa today. We want the man which is in the pillows.
The first part of the question is asking if the president is willing to engage the elected representatives of South Africa on this particular issue.
I stand ready, Honorable Speaker, to, as people have said, take the nation into its confidence. I stand ready to do so, to give an explanation. But for me, it's been important that this matter having occurred, that I should give space, stand back, and allow the various agencies to deal with this matter as thoroughly as I believe they are doing.
However, MPs wouldn't be appeased and didn't hold back.
The question has not been answered. There has not been an attempt on the part of the president to respond to the question or to try to attempt to even give an answer.
The president must answer the question today. He went to kidnap people, he engaged in money laundering, he intimidated women and kidnapped women in his farm, and we are told he must not answer. Please, the president must answer the question.
The president says he will account to investigative authorities rather than Parliament. That is a very dismal state of affairs. So I would implore the president, he says, I stand ready to answer all the questions. That is now, that he would use his discretion and answer to Parliament right now.
Meanwhile, political parties have until Thursday to submit their name of experts who will sit on a panel to look into the contentious issue. Mangoba Mqunu, Johannesburg.
4 people, including 2 former Transnet senior officials, appeared in the Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crimes Court on Monday. The matter relates to their alleged role in the multi-million rand Transnet locomotives tender scandal, and the NPA is confident that more arrests are imminent. eNCA's Mangoba Mqunu was in court.
Almost a decade after one of the biggest heists at Transnet, it appears the net is finally closing in on those implicated in widespread corruption. The latest to be arrested, former CEO Brian Molefe and former CFO Anuj Singh, have appeared in court alongside directors from the Gupta-linked regiments and Trillion.
This emanates from about various transaction advisory services that took place around the contracting or getting on board the 1064 locomotive deal. That was highly controversial. At the time, there were talks of that particular contract could have escalated to about 54 billion through testimony that you also heard at the Zondo Commission. However, this particular arrest is premised or focused on the advisory services so provided by the various companies to Transnet Transnet. That eventually also resulted in the getting of the club loan and various transactions that led to the 1064 locomotive deal transaction.
6 other suspects appeared in court, among them another former Transnet CEO, Siyabonga Gama, and acting CFO, Gary Peter. They are accused of defrauding Transnet of over 90 million rand in 2015. The state, meanwhile, is not ruling out further arrests, but the defense add its concerns.
The state has elected to issue warrants of arrest and arrest the accused today and bring them before court. The case law is clear. If you bring people before court on a warrant of arrest, you must be ready to proceed with trial. And that is exactly what we want to know. The state cannot expect us at this stage, if their intention is to still join the Guptas for whom they applied to be extradited to this country, that we should sit here and sit on our laurels for the next year or 2 or 3, as long as that's going to be.
The former executive faced charges of contravening the Public Management Finance Act, fraud, money laundering, and more. Their case has been postponed to the 14th of October. Mangoba Mchunu, Palmbridge.
It was a COPE conference ironically aimed at addressing divisions in the party, but it ended up in a widely televised brawl. On Wednesday, 3 men who claimed to be leaders of the party stormed in on the session and physical altercations ensued. eNCA's Mangoba Mchunu was there when the drama unfolded.
A briefing by COPE leader Musiwa Likota to stamp his authority.
I am acting here as the president of the Congress of the People, elected at the last Congress of the party.
On Monday, party leaders, including its deputy president, released a statement confirming Likota's suspension. They accuse him of sowing divisions in the party. But while addressing the allegations, chaos ensued.
And the matter was about to go to the court.
Yes, who are you? Yes, who are you?
You will surely know me.
Who are you?
If you will know me.
Hey, there's no media briefing here. There's no copy.
These factionalists that have been called here are not the real members of the Congress of the People. These are the mafias. These are the people that are destroying the Congress of the People. It's the president who's going around and making parallel structures. We are saying to him, he has got no right to come here and address these people in the name of the Congress of the People.
However, the COPE leader says he is unfazed, denying the corruption allegations against him.
I challenge any individual who can bring forward evidence and say, on such and such a day, Mr. Lekota stole this money. I take deep pride in not being a thief. I don't want to be identified with thieves.
COPE says it's investigating and those responsible will be held accountable. Meanwhile, Lekota insists he'll remain as leader until Congress decides otherwise. Mangoba Mchunu, Johannesburg.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, we feature some of the interviews with key newsmakers by our anchors. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Shurdika Pillay. After the president's grilling in Parliament, the Democratic Alliance says the ANC has shielded its president before and that the party is doing it again. eNCA anchor Anli Hatting spoke to DA leader John Steenhuisen.
Do you know what happened and what's going to happen about outstanding questions?
Well, first of all, it was very, very clear that the protection squad of the president was in full force today. They didn't want him to have to be grilled on Pala Pala. So instead, the rules were completely violated to end the session. I've been a member of parliament for almost a decade and a half, and I can't remember a question session ever being stopped while a live question was still on the floor. Obviously, this was the Pala Pala question. And it was very, very clear from the president that he was uncomfortable in that situation. And I think the Speaker's made a terrible decision and set a terrible precedent by allowing him to get away without any of our fellow opposition members being able to put our questions to the President on this particular matter.
So your new chief whip, Siviwe Kwarube, raised the point that if questions were submitted 2 weeks ago, and if the president simply wasn't going to answer the Phala Phala question, we know that he has responded, but many opposition parties say he hasn't actually answered any questions. Why wasn't that question just struck off to save time and allow for more time for other pressing issues?
Because it is a legitimate question. And frankly, the president's argument that he's got to account to other agencies, etc., before he accounts to Parliament is a complete and utter subterfuge and frankly dishonest. In fact, only one institution that the president is constitutionally obliged to account to is Parliament. Sections of the Constitution make it very, very clear that his primary accountability is to Parliament, because that is where the people's representatives sit.
Staying with that story, I'm joined by Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gungubele. Minister Gungubele, thank you so much for speaking to us. Opposition parties have accused the President of avoiding the Phala Phala issue in Parliament today. Where are we with the investigation into the alleged theft of foreign currency from his farm in 2020?
All what people want is to subject the President to a parliamentary grandstanding, which is not tested against anything, casting aspersions which are not subjected to any adjudication in Parliament. When the President has opted to subject himself to a parliamentary process, which is tightly organized, informed by Section 189, where highly qualified people will come with credible results. All I'm saying, this is just an attempt to embarrass the President in an arbitrary manner, in an untested manner, and that ignoring that there's a thorough process to which the President has subjected himself to.
COPE Deputy President Willie Madisha has apologized for the fistfight at the party's press conference in Boksburg on Wednesday. Madisha spoke to Professor J.J. Tavern on Power to Truth.
What a terrible, shameful, if you like, scenes that we saw today, but of course, a culmination of a very hectic week. Tell us what happened, start on Sunday, in terms of the suspensions.
Thank you very much, JJ. Permit me to start by saying what happened today is extremely, extremely sad. And one must apologize to the members of COPE and the people of South Africa. Why? Because it was not supposed to be like that. We're talking about a political party that has been formed to help South Africans, to represent South Africans up to the levels of Parliament. And for leaders to be seen, to be coming together to do the kind of thing that they did today is extremely sad. However, what I must say is that that which the president of COPE and his friends did is extremely wrong. He is the one that brought what we call the CEC. CEC is the administrative body. In this case, myself, himself, the national treasurer, to say, what must we do, because we have this kind of problem where inter alia we don't have some of members of staff, members of the executive. We therefore need to come together and do something. Our general secretary has passed away. Therefore, let's have a meeting, first of the people who were elected to the Congress. Okay? Come, sit down so that we can call a bigger meeting with the provinces, etc. We agreed. And it was as a result of that we convened a meeting. Now, we were supposed in that meeting to have a general secretary elected, the deputy general secretary elected. We're supposed to come up with a clear program of action to say, between now and say 6 months, what must we do as COPE to get the members to grow the organization, etc. But then I went on to arrange that as instructed. But then on the day on which he was supposed to be there and attend the meeting, he wasn't. Only to find that out that he had now driven to Bloemfontein to go and meet with other people in a rendezvous, people who are not leaders of COPE at all.
What about your suspension and the spokesperson and so on. I mean, where did that happen, and who was that? That was certainly not in the CNC, was it?
No, that's a joke. I mean, the CNC, like I said, the highest decision-making body, is the one that we had, okay? Yeah. And the people with whom the president went there to that particular meeting of theirs, I'm saying the people who are in the executive are only two, himself and the one who is the chairperson.
Ukraine recently celebrated its 31st Independence Day, which marks the country's declaration of independence from the USSR in 1991. This as it faces the ongoing effects of the current Russian invasion. eNCA anchor Heidi Jokos spoke to Ukraine's ambassador to South Africa, Lubov Abravitova, on Sunday.
How do you feel about celebrating Independence Day on the 24th of August, seeing the state Ukraine is in at the moment?
Good evening, our viewers. Yes, it was very special, if I may say so, Independence Day. And I think it was Independence Day with different meaning of independence. Because today when we are fighting for this meaning, we really much more appreciate it. And it's not only about independence of Ukrainians, it's about the independent right of every single nation to make its independent choice.
Maybe just tell us what's going on and what the people of Ukraine are going through.
As of today, almost 21% of Ukrainian territory is taken by Russians. The difference as of today is just that Russians cannot advance further into our territory because obviously we are resistant. Ukrainians firmly believe that we will overcome this evil and we will win this war. Moreover, we are getting different kinds of support, including the military assistance and latest weapons. And that is why we are not allowing Russians to go further deeper into our territories. So the task of Russians today is just to try to keep control over those territories that are taken already.
Coming up, the Inubini Tavern tragedy toxicology report is finally released. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Shurdika Pillay. Community activists in Mitchell's Plain are demanding police take harsher action against employees accused of sexual assault. A maintenance worker at the Mitchell's Plain police station was recently suspended from work over allegations he allegedly raped 3 women. Monique Mootlock has the story.
Mitchell's Plain police station recorded the highest number of sexual assault cases in the country for the latest quarter. And community activists say this doesn't surprise them. They've been petitioning for several months for the suspension of an employee accused of sexual assault.
I would think that any employee by the state should be, the moment there is a criminal sexual assault case, should be suspended automatically. Because if we think about what the president said in 2019 when he made gender-based violence a priority crime, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to go and petition and protest and all of these things.
The accused, whose sexual assault case is underway, allegedly lured women with the promise of jobs before raping them near the police station. He also apparently harassed several others who he'd come into contact with at the station.
He started messaging me photos of his penis and then photos of hotels that we can go to. So I said, but I told you before I'm not going anywhere with you. And then he started swearing at me. So I told him, listen, if you're not going to stop, I'm going to go to the police station and I'm going to make a case of harassment against you. And so I blocked him. And then he invited me on another number again and then started swearing at me again.
With a 28% spike in sexual assault cases at Mitchell's Plain police station, some community activists say this problem is bigger than the SAPS.
Die hof self, enige ding dat word nou 'n molestingsaak of 'n rapesaak een kan gestoot word nou gou word dit postpone tot nog 'n datum toe. Want hulle het nou goue aan, hulle het nou die magistraat nodig vir goue ander saak van 'n gangster of 'n motordiefstal of iets soos dit.
The SAPS says an internal investigation is underway and the employee has been suspended. Police say a case of sexual assault is under investigation. Monique Mortlock, Cape Town.
While authorities remain tight-lipped on the toxicology reports of the teenagers who died at the Inubini Tavern tragedy, parents are telling eNCA that they were told their children died from suffocation. Senior reporter Aviwe Mtila has been covering the story since it broke.
Into abathi yenzekile abantwana bathi bafuthaniselekile because bebebanintsi abakwazanga uphefumla.
The cause of death has left more questions than answers for parents of the teens who died at the Inubini Tavern. One of them is Nomawethu Mboyiya, the mother of 15-year-old Sandanati Matlakala.
Namhlanje bendizomamela i-results zomntanam. But nthaye xa ndifika phaya ndaxelelwa ngugqirha into yobana umntana wam njengoba engekho nje is because bebecrashene bebedibene ubhujiswe yiloo nto umntanam.
I-cause of death masiyiyeke because abazovuka batsho njalo. Masiyiyeke i-cause of death abazovuka batsho njalo. Masinyamezelele into yoba impahla bezithathiwe, impahla zabantwana zithathiwe zapha ePretoria. Okokoko for 2 months impahla ekho zisePretoria bekutshekshwa ntoni ufuthaniselwana. Zitsho ii-results zithi kufuthaniselana.
I want to assure you we are not going to rest up until we get the right answers, because as for now these are not the right answers. Something is going on with the departments.
The Eastern Cape Health Department has decided to keep mum regarding the findings.
As a department, we are not mandated to disclose. Remember, there are issues between, a patient and a doctor. And in this instance, it also becomes important that you do respect the right of a person, even if that person has passed on, or is deceased. So if that is what the family has said, I cannot really comment on that. However, what we have done was really for us as a department to communicate what was the cause of death. We have done so.
Inubini owner Siyakhangela Ndevu is appearing in court for a pre-trial hearing on Friday for contravening the Liquor Act. Aviwe Mtila, East London.
Health Minister Joe Phaahla visited the Kalafong Provincial Tertiary Hospital in Atteridgeville in the city of Tshwane on Thursday to assess the impact of the current sporadic protests on access to health services. The hospital has been the scene of violent scuffles between members of Operation Dudula and the EFF, who have conflicting views on migration. Pulele Tweety Jones has more.
Despite reaching an agreement with the Health Ministry, members of Operation Dudula vowed not to back down after reclaiming temporary territory from the EFF. Today, an altercation broke out once again between the two groups outside the Kalafong Hospital in Atteridgeville. This time, Dudula members reinforced their numbers, chasing away EFF supporters. Dudula maintains that foreign nationals must pay for health services in the country, but the EFF says that's rubbish. The spat between the two has seemingly caught the attention of health unions. Both Nehau and Donosa say the pickets are putting a strain on health facilities and affecting patients. The unions have also called against the intimidatory acts targeting foreign health workers.
Our members and workers in general are being inconvenienced, having to come to work, having been asked to produce identity documents by total strangers in order for them to prove that they work here or whether they are patients coming here. It's an inconvenience.
And we are really saying that hospital should be a place of tranquility, place of peace. If at Operation Dudula and EFF have difference, let them sort out somewhere else, but not in the hospitals. Yes, we did receive the complaint for our dark-skinned nurses that they are intimidated as well when they have to enter the premises. So that is unacceptable.
Meanwhile, Health Minister Joe Phaahla says more has to be done to regulate the influx of foreign nationals accessing medical facilities in the country.
We could enter into proper discussions with our, if we have good regulations, we can enter into discussions with the governments of our neighbors, because they have a responsibility every government has a responsibility for its citizens. So we need to also hold them accountable for their own responsibility for their citizens, and where they cannot, even ourselves. I mean, if South Africans are going to go to Namibia to seek help, I mean, the Namibian government must hold us accountable.
Members of Operation Dudula say they've reached an agreement with the Kalafong Hospital Management and the Health Minister to put an end to the picketing. Ule Jones, Atchishville, in Pretoria.
And that ends our show for this weekend. From myself and the Week in One team, have a good one.